Hi, friends. Happy Monday. My name is Libby, and welcome to my audio journal, Finding Joy in the Shadows, where I spend time each week talking about the fun curveballs life throws our way and help us look for pockets of joy. This is also an opportunity for me to continue working through my own stuff while also sharing ways to help anyone who might be listening work through some things in your life that might need some work so that we all can find joy together. Today's episode will be a continuation from last week's episode, and we're going to try to apply the filter of the things we can control and cannot control, but we're going to apply it to when we find ourselves managing conflict or drama so that we can still find joy no matter the outcome. All right. Well, first off, how is everyone feeling today? How are you all doing out there? I'm curious if anyone started working on building their master list. Did you start by writing down everything and anything that requires your attention? If you did, how did that go? Let me know. How did you do with prioritizing each of those items? I'm curious if anyone had any aha moments like I did when I first started doing this exercise, right? That realization that while a certain item might be really important in someone else's life, and maybe that person is a brother, a sister, a parent, a bestie, and so it's still important to us as well. And we'll offer support on that item to the nth degree. But by doing this exercise and putting things through that filter, maybe we realized, well, we don't have any control over that situation, like next to zero. It's this other person's item, situation, thing. And so all we'll ever be is a supportive person, which we will. But maybe in doing this activity, we came to this realization, and therefore we place that particular item lower on our official to-do list. Now, maybe we don't tell that person or item or situation that we did that. But we found time to check in on those things when it suited our schedule and our goals for the week. Remember, baby steps. Give yourself all the self-love you can. Keep working on it, and I promise, eventually applying this filter to your daily life will get easier. Okay, so today is a big day for me. Well, for me, my company, it is the very first day of our new fiscal year. So today is the start of our first quarter, or Q1, as we say in the biz. Lots of announcements are going to be coming down, probably starting within the next hour. Lots of changes. I am mentally prepared as best I can for all the new things coming down the pipe. I am open to what this new fiscal year has in store for me professionally. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't also freaking out. So just another Monday, I guess. I did get up really, really early. I didn't go for a workout. I stayed in bed snuggling with Lulu. I know. I'm sorry. I did pull myself together, and I did run through the Starbucks drive-through. So does that count as going for a run? Asking for a friend. All right. Before we dive in, let's spend a few minutes catching up on some recent happenings from around the world. Dive into some LPs that were on my radar last week. Let's start with this one. I saw an article floating around the interwebs late Friday. Now, I cannot confirm if it is real or just a really, really good edit, but apparently my homeboy / other BTS bias V, Taeyong, filmed a variety show before he enlisted in the military. And the article said he filmed like 30 episodes of him living out his dream in a food truck. It's supposed to air on Netflix, and it's going to be called Tay Tay's Kitchen. Now, for anyone that might not know, V was part of a Korean variety show called Jinny's Kitchen, and he was part of a cast of other Korean celebrities, actors, singers, where they were sent to a small touristy town in Mexico to run a Korean street food restaurant. The whole show was super cute, very sweet, very funny. It is still on Amazon Prime if you want to check it out, and I would recommend because it's adorable. It's one of those shows where when you watch it, you find yourself smiling, and there's not a lot of shows out there that just make you happy. Some of the patrons that visited the restaurant recognized a few of the actors, and seeing their reactions was really cute. I mean, could you imagine walking into a restaurant and seeing your favorite musician, actor cooking your food or serving you a beverage? You would have a reaction too. Now, during the show, V mentioned a few times his desire to want to start his own business running a food truck. So, my question is, well, did he actually film content for this while he was in Mexico filming Ginny's Kitchen? Or was this just a really good edit? I don't know. The article did say a teaser trailer was supposed to come out June 1st, but shocker, nothing came out. Haven't seen anything yet. I think I might have been duped. I haven't quite given up hope. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that this still turns out to be real, but we will see. Speaking of BTS, JK announced he's releasing a brand new single this Friday called Never Let Go. And I'm so excited. I love his album Golden that he released a few months ago. So good. Just really good, upbeat, good beat songs. I loved it. So I'm very excited to hear this new song coming from him. And a good thing about being 14 hours behind Korean time is that we'll actually get to listen to it late Thursday night. So we don't have to wait till Friday. A little bonus for being 14 hours behind. All right. If anyone was wondering, I did get a chance to watch the first episode in season 1 of Bridgerton. Like I mentioned last week, I did start it. And I can report that not only did I watch the first episode of season 1, but I then quickly binged the rest of the first season within like 2 days. Oh, my stars. Where do I even begin? I mean, I guess the Duke, right? The Duke. I get it. I get it now. It's very creative. It's a very fun story mixed in with beautiful people. Quite a few steamy love scenes. And I get why it's a hit, right? I love stories where they mix historical things with current things, and it's just this nice, fun, alternate reality. I don't know. It was very, very sweet. But I will say that I had my windows open for quite a bit last week because the weather was really nice here in Minnesota. And one of my neighbors was moving, and I became very aware during the honeymoon scene in particular that perhaps I should lower the volume on my TV. I may or may not have heard some giggling from the movers. So a little embarrassed, but not totally embarrassed. I started season 2, but it hasn't quite captured my attention just yet. My girl Kiersey, though, she told me to stick with it. And since I value her opinion, I'm going to keep going. So I was at the grocery store the other day, and the Us Weekly caught my eye. I saw my homegirls, Holly Madison, Bridget Marquardt, staring at me from the cover with a headline that said, "A new feud explodes." So, of course, I bought it, right? Purely for research purposes. I'm doing a podcast now. Need to know what's going on. But sadly, it was really less breaking news and more just gossip. It felt as if I was almost reading someone's diary than actual journalism, which I know, shocker, tabloid, not journalism. The entire article was clearly written from one person's perspective, Crystal Hefner. And she was talking about having a different point of view around certain events that went down compared to that of the point of view from Holly, Bridget, and one of Hef's sons, Marston. But what I found odd is that at no point did the author make any attempt to compare and contrast Crystal's details to that from either Holly, Bridget, or Marston's. Anyone else remember the Girls Next Door show? I will admit, I was hooked from the first episode back in 2005. I think it was 2005. And I remember thinking that these girls were living the ultimate fairy tale. And that Hef was just this really nice guy, very doting, and he was just a much older Prince Charming, right? Clearly, I was very gullible. Bought the PR. And when Holly released her memoir, it was like splashing a bucket of cold water on my face, right? So much for the fairy tale. And turns out we viewers, we were blissfully ignoring the glaring red flags that if you go back and rewatch the show now, it's quite obvious. It was definitely a reality check. So I must admit, I was a fan of the show. I also tune in to Holly and Bridget's Girls Next Level podcast. So yeah, I have to say, I am team hashtag team Holly and Bridget all the way. But I have to give credit where credit is due. And Crystal Hefner has been spilling some serious tea, and I have been sipping it up. I've enjoyed listening to both sides of their stories. And it's clear when you listen to them or when you read their books. These women clearly went through an experience, and it was not all sunshine and rainbows. And my heart really goes out to them. Final note is if the author of this article had spent the 45 minutes listening to the interview with Holly, Bridget, and Marston, the one that Crystal was referencing throughout most of the article, then a lot of these claims would have been cleared up or would have explained things a little bit better. But what I do know, amongst a lot of things, I am not a journalist. So those are just my 2 cents. But I think all parties involved have a story. They have a story to share, and they should be entitled to share their story. And shocker, each one of them are going to have a different perspective, and that's okay. All right. Speaking of drama, in other drama news, did everyone hear about the Cannes Film Festival security guard fiasco? My Instagram and Threads was flooded last week with it, and I saw some videos and pictures, and I was like, what is going on? Seriously. So I don't know if it's Cannes or Cannes, whatever, however you say it. The festival is basically a fancy schmancy festival in the French Riviera that I think peeps are hyping up way too much. A little backstory on the festival. It started back in 1946 to celebrate artistic achievements, but now it's just basically a swanky networking event. Over 30,000 people attend, and you can't just walk in. You have to be invited, right? It is invite-only event. So if you are in the industry, I get it. It's probably a big deal for you. There is a dress code. In order to attend any of the gala screenings, you need to wear either a dinner jacket or a tuxedo with a bow tie or an evening dress. You can wear a cocktail dress or a dark trouser suit or maybe a dressy top with black trousers. Sneakers are forbidden. Now, there has been quite a few controversies already. In 2015, women were turned away for not wearing high enough heels. Yeah, you heard that right. And there's at least on record one man being turned away for his outfit being deemed too loud. So, all right, it's not my scene, but it's their event, so it's their rules. Got it. So back to the drama. Apparently, a female festival security guard went viral for shooing away celebrities on the red carpet. She had run-ins with 4 women, Kelly Rowland, Miss Europe 2023, an actor named Maciel Tavares, and K-pop star Yuna, who just happened to star in Ginny's Kitchen alongside my boy V. And she couldn't be like the nicest person, just very soft, very sweet. And it made me even more sad when I was learning about this story. If you've seen any of the videos with Kelly Rowland, you can see she's clearly trying to walk up some steps. She stops to turn around to wave at fans. And this guard proceeds to like raise her arm to essentially block her. And Kelly, ever the professional, brushes it off and then starts to walk up some more steps. But then she tries again a second time to turn around to wave at the crowd. And again, the security guard blocks her. However, this time, Kelly clearly gave her a piece of her mind, and I applaud her for that. Similar incidences happened with the other three women. And at one point, I saw a picture of the guard physically wrapping her arms around one of these women. Like, first off, what were you thinking? It is never okay to put your hands on another person. If you were throwing them to the ground for their safety because they were in imminent danger, I would get that. But turning around to wave at a crowd at an event you were personally invited to attend, I don't think this person's behavior warranted their actions. Now, I couldn't find any official source offering an apology. I did see an unofficial source claim that the guard was just really stressed and race wasn't a factor. Okay, well, if that is true, then why don't we just apologize for being rude? That would be a good start. Now, I am not an actor or a model, right? I am 5 foot even. But I can imagine these women worked really hard to get where they are. And I've seen Kelly's VH1 Behind the Music when she was with Destiny's Child. And Homegirl has been hustling and working on her craft and her career since she was a teenager. So I can imagine reaching Cannes is huge for them. And they deserved respect, and they didn't get it. So, yeah, hashtag justice for Kelly, Yuna, Sawa, and Maceo. For me, myself, and I am sorry, and I hope this didn't ruin your experience. See, Cannes? It's not that hard. Okay, sorry. Rant is over. It just really irks me when women don't support other women. So, anyway, speaking of supporting women, I was at Barnes & Noble the other day, and I was just enjoying my time browsing through the magazine aisles. It's something I used to do often, but it's been a minute since I let myself get lost in magazines. And I found myself staring at the cover of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit magazine. And it caught my eye because I noticed instead of one beautiful woman or beautiful female, there were several beautiful women in these like gorgeous evening gowns. And I don't remember the last time I found myself flipping through the swimsuit issue. I remember as a kid, I remember thinking these women were so beautiful and I wanted to look like them in the worst way. So I grabbed the magazine and what do you know? First page I open and it's Christy freaking Brinkley staring right back at me. And Homegirl still looks radiant, just picture perfect to this day. Now, for me, Christy Brinkley, she was like my first supermodel. I wanted to look like her so bad. I wanted that long blonde hair that I could just flip back and forth from side to side. She's always had just this beautiful smile, tan skin, and I wanted to desperately look the way she did in the clothes and bathing suits that she was pictured in. I remember even like closing my eyes and playing pretend as if I was her. Unfortunately, God has a sense of humor. Because like I said, I'm 5 foot even, so I'm a shorty. Most times my feet don't even touch the ground when I sit, which is always fun and professional. And I have dark curly hair and I legit repel the sun. So I'm pretty much as pale as a vampire. I have finally learned how to style my curly hair, and it's only taken me 30-ish years to figure it out. But now I do love the uniqueness of my features. I'm proud that I look different from the quote unquote typical beauty that we see in magazines. So I will say I was impressed by the variety of women pictured throughout the entire magazine. Every type of body and background was well represented. I found it refreshing, made me happy to see women with hips. So good job, Sports Illustrated. You done good. I will note I wanted to support them, so I did purchase the magazine. Happy June, everyone. This is my birthday month. I turned 45 years old on the 28th. Very scary. Go me. I am registered at Kate Spade, by the way, if anyone is curious. Just saying. Also, happy Pride Month, everyone. Did anyone notice on threads that if you used Happy Pride or Love is Love in your post, if you clicked on the heart, all this confetti would pop up? It was so fun. I got a little obsessed with it. It kind of turned into a game for me, but it was so beautiful because like my entire threads page was just confetti flying all around. So happy Pride to everyone. All right. I can't think of any other LPs to talk about. So let's go ahead and dive in. I have my iced coffee all set. Lulu is at doggy daycare today. So our usual furry commentator will be silent in today's episode. Over the weekend, I was discussing this podcast project with a few close friends and shared the first two recordings with them because I wanted their feedback and insight, and find out how I was doing so far. And one of my friends brought up a really good point from last week's pod, and I thought it would make for an excellent continuation for this week's pod. My friend said, well, what happens when you're fighting with someone? I mean, technically, you can't control the other person in that situation. So, what? You just take it because you can't simply control them? So, we're going to spend some time. Well, we're going to spend the rest of our time together talking through how we can apply the filter of the things we can and cannot control and how we can use it in relation to managing conflict and drama so that we can still find joy no matter the outcome. Before we get started, though, the first thing I want to do is I think it's important to define the word fight. If we are discussing a toxic, abusive situation where there has been physical altercation, right? Physical contact has been made. I don't know if I'm the best person to offer advice in that particular situation. So if you are listening to my words and the fights you are referring to resulted in physical contact, then I would encourage you to reach out to the people in your inner circle, your friends, your family, and seek help removing yourself from that situation. If we are talking about a disagreement, a heated argument, that type of conflict and drama, then, anything that doesn't involve physical contact, then I do feel comfortable weighing in with my 2 cents. While controlling items in our daily life and managing conflict may seem similar on the surface, they're actually quite different situations. Again, I'm not a licensed anything, so I could be wrong. These are simply my opinions. And in my humblest of opinions, I think there are 3 high-level versions of conflict that we run into most often. One is where a person is the one igniting or instigating the drama. There's one where the person is reacting to the person that instigated or ignited the drama. And then we have this third situation where nobody is really sure who, what, when, where, how, or why the drama started. This is how I view conflict in its most basic form. We are either the person that is starting the drama, the person reacting to the drama, or we find ourselves in that fun situation where nobody has any clue as to how or why we are even involved in said drama in the first place, and everyone is doing their best to clear things up quickly and exit stage left. So let's first talk about the instigator. Who is that? According to Google, the instigator is the one who deliberately provokes or incites others to conflict, violence, or anger. This may be due to various reasons, such as personal gain, entertainment, revenge, or maybe even for ideological motives. Now, the only issue I have over this definition is the word deliberately. I think sometimes it's possible that there are people out there that find themselves in the instigator role. They might be completely unaware they are playing that part in the drama. Can anyone picture that type of person in their mind. We've all met them. So I would like to amend the definition to include deliberately or unknowingly provokes or incites others to conflict, violence, or anger. Now, who are the reactors in these situations? Google didn't really have a definition for this, so we're going to go with my version, if that's okay. I think the reactor is a person that was brought into conflict, right? The conflict was brought to them. And they either had a choice. They could ignore it or they could respond. And it is their response that triggers the continuation of said drama. Anyone find themselves in that situation before? It's fun. Again, this is how I view conflict in its most basic form. If we had the time, we could map out every little detail, every little minuscule detail that goes into an argument, but that would take a really, really long time. So I apologize ahead of time if I might be missing something in these definitions. All right, so we have our instigators, we have our reactors. Before we go any further, I want to put this on record. Life isn't perfect. We are not perfect, right? Shocker. In these moments, in real time, we all say and do things that could upset someone. And other people can say and do things to upset us as well. So I think when we find ourselves in these moments, applying the filter of, do I have control over this or not, would be difficult for most people to deal with, especially if things are getting heated very quickly. I will be the first to admit that I too struggle with this, following my own advice of focusing on what I can control when a situation is heating up and my brain is having to make split decisions within milliseconds. I would bet most people listening right now, if anyone is listening, would agree they too struggle in these heated moments. We're human. It's okay. I'm going to say that again. We're human. It's okay. I think what's most important, though, when we find ourselves in these situations, when conflict arises, when drama arises, when someone is instigated, when someone has reacted, there's been a blow up, there's been an argument. I think what's most important in these moments is what happens next. What happens once everyone goes back to their corner and their brains start thinking clearly again? When I was younger, I will admit, I struggled with what I'm about to share with you. As I've gotten older, though, with time and life experiences, I have found it easier to grapple with some difficult questions we have to face post-argument or post-fight or post-drama with someone. First, we have to ask ourselves if we were the one that started this, or did we simply react to what was transpiring in front of us? Did we start this? Did we instigate this? If we did, if we're strong enough to admit that it was our attitude, our efforts, our actions, or our ethics that caused the conflict or the blow up or the drama, then we should state it out loud in a form of an apology. First, apologize to yourself, and then to the people you impacted or the people we impacted. Admitting we caused a problem that could have resulted in hurting someone emotionally isn't easy, but it's a necessary first step to clear the air. If we come to the realization that while we didn't cause this conflict, argument, or drama, but we most certainly responded to it, and in our reaction to the situation, we caused our own damage, well, then we need to ask ourselves, in our reaction, did we now cause unintentional hurt in return? If it did, then it's important to acknowledge it, apologize to ourselves first, and then to the people we may have unintentionally hurt. Sounds like this. I'm sorry for the things I did, or I'm sorry for the things I said in response. Take ownership of your part because we can control that, right? Now, what happens if we offer an apology, but the other person doesn't offer us one in return? It's a fun situation to be in. Then I think we are back to deciding what we can control versus what we can't. If a person is unwilling to admit their part in the drama, the conflict, the argument, whether they were the instigator or the reactor, if they are unable to offer an apology for the part they willingly or unwillingly played, then it's okay. Let them. Mel Robbins is an inspirational speaker. Anyone in the world of sales most likely knows her name or has come across her videos at one point. If you're not in sales and you don't know who Mel Robbins is, I highly recommend seeking her out. She has this theory called let them. And I think it fits perfectly here. And I've had to learn how to apply it, unfortunately, a couple times in my life. It's not easy. And it's going to take a minute to really understand it and be able to do it kind of well. And I know it because it took me a minute. But the essence of the let them approach is for us to accept the things, the people, and the situations we cannot change. It's about letting go of all the anxieties and fears that usually come with trying to control the uncontrollable. In the midst of drama or conflict, arguments, this mindset will help us take back some of that calmness, will help us take a step back and not allow ourselves to get further dragged into unnecessary drama. So if we find ourselves in a situation where someone is unwilling or unable to offer an apology back to you or to us for something they did or they caused, or maybe it was their reaction to something that was rather harsh, but you were willing to acknowledge and apologize for the part you played, then simply let them. It doesn't make this person bad if they don't return it. Mel has a good way of explaining this. And she says that by letting them not return the apology, it reveals more about who they are and should help us manage ourselves accordingly. Some people view an apology as showing a sign of weakness, which, if that's the case, would make it very difficult for them to offer one from the get-go. Some people just don't have the same coping skills that we do. And it's hard for them to see, let alone admit, when they may have hurt someone with their actions, words, ethics, all that stuff. Like I said, when I was younger, I too struggled with these internal conversations. It took me going through life experiences and really taking the time to learn who I am as a person. How do I act? How do I respond? And focusing on accepting the things I can control versus what I can't. And it took me putting in a lot of work to make myself stronger. So my advice is to accept this person for where they are on their journey. Okay. So let me take a sip. Needed some coffee for this last part. So how do we handle the fallout when an apology is not returned? In my first pod, I mentioned this very situation. So this is a situation that I've had to work on recently. And it's not easy for anyone to do well or even master. I have yet to meet someone that tells me, oh yeah, I'm a champion at arguments and drama, and they're totally fine when someone doesn't reciprocate with an apology, right? No, I think most people would agree that these are difficult conversations to have internally, and no one is an expert in how to handle fallouts of drama, conflict, arguments. We all have to continue working on ourselves. I think, though, the first thing we need to do after the apology is not reciprocated, we need to ask ourselves, all right, well, how serious was this issue? In the grand scheme of things, do I really even need an apology? Would have been nice. Now I know more about this person that I just had an issue with. But in the grand scheme of things, it really wasn't that big of a deal. So bygones be bygones. Bygones be bygones. Or was this a BFD? Was this a big deal? And not only was there a fallout, but now we've offered an apology, and that apology was not returned. So it's going to take us a considerable amount of time to heal. Sometimes when we find ourselves in those situations post-argument, post-conflict, post-drama, we will no longer be able to invest in this person the same way we did before. Perhaps we will have to take a temporary step back from this person in order to protect our own peace and joy. And while that is certainly a sad thing, I think it's okay to step aside and let them live their life. Let them live with their version of the situation. It'll be okay. If we controlled what we could, be proud. You took ownership of what you could. And now it's time for us to move forward with them, perhaps not in the same way we did prior to the conflict, argument, or drama. Or maybe we have to move forward without them for a while. And that's okay too. I think where we can find joy, even in the face of conflict, arguments, and drama, is that if we were able to acknowledge our own misstep or our own shortcoming, and we were able to offer ourselves an apology for not acting in the way we wish we had in that moment, and we offered an apology to this person, regardless of how the other person responded or responds, then it's important we start teaching ourselves to be happy with that result. If we took ownership, right? We did our part. Maybe it's not the outcome we planned for, but since we can't control that part of the equation, when we look at the pieces we could control and we controlled them, then I think it's important to start training our brains to view that as a positive outcome. We grew personally and stronger for it. A few months ago, I came across this post on Instagram, and I wish I remember who posted it so I could give them credit for it. At the time, I saved it, and I didn't really know why I was saving it. It was just kind of one of those random things where I'm like, oh, I'm going to save that. That's really good. And I think for today's reasons, this is why I saved it. If you find yourself in a situation where you either instigated or reacted to some pretty serious conflict, arguments, drama, and afterwards you had some serious reflection and you apologized to yourself, and then you went to the person and were like, I'm sorry for what I did, or I'm sorry for how I reacted. And that person was just like, either maybe they doubled down and was like, well, let me tell you more, or they were just like, okay, and just kind of left it. But it was a big deal, and it's going to take you a considerable amount of time to now heal from the fallout. And maybe you're taking a step back for a bit. I have this affirmation that, like I said, came across in this Instagram post. And the post started by saying, once you remove certain energies from your inner circle, you will be amazed at the types of new energies that show up. Now, this doesn't mean you have to say goodbye to these people forever, but by not allowing someone the same level of access they were granted before the conflict, the drama, the argument, it does open us up to other possibilities. So we need to remember to give ourselves some self-love. If we know that at the end of the day, We did everything we could. We took ownership of the things we could control. Then we need to start training our brain to find happiness and peace with that. Remember, we cannot control another person's attitude, efforts, actions, or ethics. At the end of the day, we all make mistakes. I'm going to say that again. At the end of the day, we all make mistakes. Be kind to yourself. Focus on your journey and your actions and be happy with your progress. We are all human. Before we go, I want to leave you with the second part of that affirmation from the Instagram post. It's a beautiful affirmation, and it did help me get through some hard times post-argument. And I want to do it with you right now in hopes that maybe if you find yourself in a similar struggle, that you will find some happiness and joy with it, and it'll add some positivity to your day. Now, you can either bow your head in prayer. You can put your hands over your heart. Whenever I do these affirmations, I always like to have my hands in front of me with my palms facing up. But it's entirely however you want to do it. You'll want to say this affirmation 3 times. So I'm going to do it with you today, so you can write it down. I'll try to add the words to the show notes and maybe to Instagram or the website so you have a copy of it. But it goes like this. I now release everything holding me back from receiving more love, more abundance, and more joy in my life. Now I am open, I am worthy, and I am loved. I now release everything holding me back from receiving more love, more abundance, and more joy in my life. Now I am open, I am worthy, and I am loved. I now release everything holding me back from receiving more love, more abundance, and more joy in my life. Now I am open, I am worthy, and I am loved. Okay, I think I've babbled on long enough. We will add to this next week. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, has an amazing week, and I look forward to our next chat. Peace out, friends.